Hi people, how you all doing? Welcome and welcome back to the channel. It's Sandra here and we're going to be getting into Douglas Murray on ending mass immigration to Europe. And this is like a very old video, right? And it's how it's been very consistent that even till this day, this is still an issue and this is still a cause that Douglas is very vocal about and Douglas is fighting for, okay? So without no further ado, people, let's just hop right into the video.
First for the motion is Douglas Murray. Founded the Centre for Social Cohesion, which was integrated with the Henry Jackson Society, described by some as a right-winger. He's also the author of several respected books, including Neoconservatism, Why We Need It. Your time starts now.
Well, thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to be back in Athens, and can I particularly thank Intelligence Squared Greece for inviting me back. First of all, I should just lance a potential boil, I think, that may be present. It's not going to be my contention tonight. I don't think it's going to be my side's contention that immigration is only a bad thing, that it only brings negatives. That is not what I believe, and it's not what I'm going to argue tonight. Of course, immigration has historically and can still bring some good things. It's also important to make the following point. The immigration debate, as the short film, which is much in support of the other side's case tonight that you've just seen, has demonstrated, is forever mixing up issues. Legal and illegal immigration, for instance, are totally separate things. The law is on one side and not on the other. Economic migration is one very distinct thing and very separate, for instance, from asylum. It is my belief that Europe should remain open to asylum seekers, that people who are genuinely fleeing persecution in other places should be able to find a sanctuary in Europe. So that is not one of the things that this side is going to be arguing against tonight. Of course, there has been some immigration across history on our continent. There have been Huguenots, Jews in Britain, we had Ugandan Asians. All of these things have gone on for many years, but not at all on the scale which we have seen in recent years. Let me give you a couple of figures just from the country I know best, my own, and give you just two examples. It's forever said in Britain, well, we've always been a nation of immigrants and so on. That is at best a lie. After 1681, we're always told about the Huguenots. After 1681, 50,000 Huguenots entered Britain. That was over the course of decades. By the late 1990s, that was about 2 months' immigration into Britain. In the early 1970s, another case that's often and widely given, Idi Amin, of course, famously expelled the Ugandan Asians. Britain rightly took a large number in. We took about 30,000 in. 30,000 in that period. 30,000 people was 6 weeks immigration by the 1990s. So we are talking about a scale that is totally different from anything that has gone before. And there's an additional point. All the politicians have got it wrong. All of them. All of their predictions have been wrong. Every time they have made a pronouncement about this, it has been wrong. In my country, we were told that when Poland and Polish workers were going to be allowed to come in, the Labour government said it'll be a few thousand, 650,000. That is an enormous magnitude to get something wrong, even for government. The recent census that's just been published at the end of last year in Britain demonstrated this. People who identify, after this massive period of mass immigration, people who identify themselves as white British people are now a minority in their capital city of London. We cannot expect that this will not have political consequences, and we cannot expect that people across Europe aren't going to feel something about that. If you become a minority in your own city, you are going to feel something about that. Of course, there are not only bad things that come from this, but there are some distinctly bad things that come from it. Just this morning, the papers have shown in Britain that 28,000 Romanians in the UK have been held for crimes in the last 5 years. 28,000. There are only 68,000 Romanians in the country. Anyone who pretends that that isn't a problem has to address figures like that. It isn't nothing that almost half of the Romanians in the UK have been detained at some point in the last 5 years on criminal charges. We have the problem, additionally, when migration happens at this speed, of the problem of integrating people. I wish it were possible to integrate people. I think it is possible to integrate people into Europe. But there is no way you can do it when you have this speed and this scale of migration. That is not when you get integration, that is when you get parallel communities and parallel lives. Finally, in recent years, some European politicians have woken up to this. Chancellor Merkel woke up to it. President Sarkozy, even Prime Minister Cameron, woke up to this and admitted that something had gone wrong, but they don't know what to do about it. This, I would contend, is bad for us. Bad for us for a range of reasons. Firstly, let's just take the example that is now lusciously argued across Europe, that we need mass immigration because we get, for instance, the people who work in our National Health Service. We're always told, you get doctors, you get high-end skilled workers. Of course that's true. Of course it's true in part. But do you ever think, when you make that argument, what the corollary of it is? Yes, you might get a very well-trained doctor from Africa. Where would you rather that a well-trained doctor from Africa was doing their best work? In the NHS in London or in Africa where they're needed most? This is an unselfish point. I think we have been selfish in recent years. We have thought that it was perfectly acceptable to hoover up the world's talent, and in particular the third world's talent, and to think that that would have no impact on the countries that they were coming from. One other side, we often hear the low-end labour market, the opposite end, the low-end labour market issue. We're told we need immigrants because they will do the jobs that we will not do. How much of an indictment is that on our societies that people can continue to argue that? There are jobs that we Europeans cannot do or that are beneath us. No job should be beneath us. If we need street sweepers, we sweep the streets. We don't import people from other countries to do it. It's an appalling habit we have got into, and we need to wean ourselves off this habit of mass migration. It is the right, I would contend, of European people, just like people from everywhere else in the world, to have an identity. To have an identity, to be able to be proud of it, to be able to wish to protect it, and not to be called names, including the worst names going, for having that identity and wishing to protect it. You will hear tonight, I make a prediction here. I'm not a politician, I can afford to do it. I make a prediction. The other side will tell you that nothing can be done. That mass migration is something which we're just going to have to live with. That it is impossible to deal with. I think this is dangerous. Very, very dangerous. It is a dangerous thing to say when public opinion across Europe wants something to be done, that nothing can be done. Democracies and democratic governments and classes have to respond to the desires of the people. They have to address them and they have to do something about it. We have to end the era of nothing can be done. If this is not dealt with by the mainstream, if this is not dealt with on the centre-left, on the centre-right, by people in the mainstream of politics, this territory, this ground will be given over to extremists. I very much hope that is not done. I think that we have the chance still to deal with this in a mainstream democratic way. I am not arguing, our side is not arguing that we slam, or we should slam, the door of immigration shut. I am certainly not arguing that we should lock that door. But at the very least, we need to give that door a firm but gentle push. Thank you.
So we did get into that. And I do have to state one thing before I, give my opinion and all of that. I do have to state one thing is that I truly admire Douglas Murray. And to a very large extent, I do resonate to a lot of his concerns about immigration and all of that, right? But I do have quite a number of objections, Rather, would I say the points or the analogy he used, like I do have quite a number of objections if I may say, because immigration has the good and the bad. And as we stated earlier, there are two forms of immigration, the legal and the illegal. And the difference is that one is being backed up by the government, they have documentations and everything. I mean, one, you were allowed, you were quite frankly chosen to come to the country, and the other, you forced your way in, which is like really, an illegal move. So, so I truly understand that. And I just feel like, for one, two people from the same place or the same religion or just the same whatever, right? Who came into the UK with different routes. Let's say two people who came into the UK, one came the legal way and one came the illegal way. They shouldn't be accounted for as the same. They shouldn't, because they shouldn't just be accounted for the same because of they came from the same place. And this is how stereotypes are built, okay? Because why should you want to categorize someone because of something that an individual did, and that individual is already a felon in the start, like ahead of things? That person came into this country as a felon, so that is who that person is. So you trying to put everyone in a box, it's just really unfair to me. And then the example he gave about like bringing talented and trained doctors from Africa, um and how it's selfish of the UK to do that and all of that. Now let me tell you something, right? I don't know like how deep this goes, but if you studied, there's certain courses and there's certain profession that you would study in Africa that wouldn't really be taken for what it is in the United States or in the United Kingdom or just in any European country, right? Meaning, even if you studied, even if you have your doctorate degree, you have the best results and all of that. Most times, this European countries would need you to go to another, to get another certification in the country, right? I don't know how this deep this goes, but I know that most times most hospitals would request for this, right? So there is even a doubt in the very first instance. There's even a doubt to that person's qualification just because that person comes from Africa, which I think is quite belittling in my opinion. But I mean, the stereotype is already out there. That's what I'm talking about, like, stereotypes. Like, it's already out there that, nothing good or nothing perfect can come from Africa, right? And then in the case where somebody personally, studied a profession and they're trying to grow and they're trying to, further their career, and you want to stunt that because of what? You don't want to be selfish. Like, this isn't even a thing of the country. Someone is trying to volunteer to be a doctor, just what? No, right? That is the person's opinion. But I don't think that the government should be in a situation where they'll stop people from moving ahead, because everyone who is studying to move ahead, right? Is studying to integrate into any society and into any profession, right? So you actually saying that, okay, the government should, try to put a hold on this is being very selfish. I'm like, that is you trying to stunt somebody's growth just in order to stop immigration. I mean, there's a whole lot of ways that, mass immigration can be stopped, right? It can be reduced, not stopped generally, because give or take, every party has something to gain from immigration. I think this is something I say all the time. Immigration is good on both parties and is bad on both parties as well. And trust me, it is very necessary, because if there weren't immigration, trust me, the world will still be back where it was, where people do not have any knowledge about any other person, where people are just very ignorant and clueless about the world in general. So you have to even give it up to immigration, because it's actually it's a way and it's a form of education. Diversity is education. Diversity is progressive. So you trying to like stunt diversity just because, like, I am not outrightly, disputing everything he said. I definitely do listen, and I did listen. I do understand his concerns, and I can understand where he's coming from and why he's stating certain things. But as I stated earlier, right? I do agree with Douglas Murray half the time, but this one, I just had some things I just, didn't settle well with me. But nonetheless, we did get into this, and this was actually amazing because it was a very detailed and well picked information. Like, everything was so precise. I really do admire Douglas Murray's precision, as I already stated earlier. I mean, he does have his facts, he does have his reasons for whatever he's stating and all of that, right? Which is really admirable. And yeah, this person here admires him, quite alright. But yeah, my people, we got into this. I want to know what you all think about this down in the comment box. Genuinely, what do you think about this? I just hope we can put our heads together in a very non-hostile way and just talk about this. And yeah, let's keep on staying safe and healthy. On to the next one. Okay, so bye.